Hey, everybody. How we doing?
Hey, Donnie.
Good to see everybody.
Happy Monday. Happy Pride, everyone. Week
Happy
2 of Pride.
Here.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a hard out at 7 p.m. Fever. Tracy, where are they playing tonight? Remind me.
Out Connecticut.
Yes.
Oh,
For, like,
again.
the third time.
For the third time.
Or the 5th. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like,
but
don't they
give
play
me
them every week? Connecticut
got a
and
prediction?
Fever?
I
I don't know.
It's not as physical as the last couple of games. It's just been nasty.
Where are they playing?
Yeah.
Are they in Connecticut?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in
Are
Connecticut.
they? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll all be watching. We have lots to talk about today. We are going to talk about a lot of WNBA, but we're also going to talk about some Formula One, some French Open, some NBA Finals, and Lakers coaching decisions that came in today, which is interesting. So we're going to talk about all of that. But first, I think we're going to talk about Caitlin Clark in the Olympics, right? We kind of have to, right?
I mean,
That's the thing.
it's a topic of conversation on all the sports talk shows. So ladies are leading the way on all the women's on all the top 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes of you name talk show. Caitlin Clark's getting talked about. So
Yep. I think that you and Tracy are both pretty much on the same page. I am as well. This isn't even an opinion. I understand why it is the way it is. I get why she's on the team. I wish she was. I even on the bench, I think it'd be great for her to get that experience and just to be so great coming out of college. Like, I mean, and given how that's what the Olympics used to be, right? It used to be amateurism. It is really not anymore, but felt like a good reason to have her there. I get why we're not, but Alex, give me your thoughts. We've been listening to a lot of opinions in this last week, so.
Well, for those who might be tuning in and not familiar with or haven't been paying attention to the sports news or Twitter feeds or whatnot, so the U.S. Olympic team is going to be announced officially, I think, tomorrow, right? I think the official announcement's on Tuesday. And there was a lot of fodder and talk over the weekend about Caitlin not making the team. And I think for context, we should talk about like how is the USA team picked to begin with, and it's not the coaching staff, it's a whole committee of people, and there are, as we all know, because the W has too few teams and there are too many talented female athletes out there who aren't playing in the W because there just aren't enough slots, let alone 12 slots on an Olympic team to play internationally and represent the country. And I think if you go back, in my lifetime of watching the Olympics, and kind of what's cemented in my brain, I think it goes all the way back to like 96 feels like when there was the big turning point. I know that there was a women's national team before then, but for me, that's in my age when I really started focusing on it. And I think that every Olympic year has a year where someone gets snubbed, where there's
sure
talk
there's
about
always
like,
a snub.
Candace Parker didn't make it for several years. And there were, I think since 2012, Trace, I think was that the last one?
Yeah.
2008 or 12 was her.
What was the thought? Do you
Again,
recall?
it's like they'll say team chemistry. They'll say
Gino
being the head coach and preferring UConn players over Tennessee players. There's all sorts of rumors and opinions about it. And Candace had been on the Olympic team one year and then wasn't on the next. And a lot of it, like we're dominating no matter what. No matter what 12 you put out there, we're going to dominate. And I think the leveling is getting better. Like we're going to have some competition where it's not going to be like 120 in each of the Olympic Games. But going back to Caitlin, like I think back to Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi's first Olympics, I think back in 2000 or 2004 was when their first go-around was. And you had the Dawn States and the Lisa Leslies on the Olympic team, and they were rookies, and they didn't get a lot of playing time, and they were there to learn how to be, a professional athlete from those who had been doing it for a long time. Yeah. And I think if Caitlin had gotten the opportunity to be on the Olympic team, that's how this would have played out. But again, the media is different. And I mean, Trace, I think for me, I'm okay that she's not on the team. I think from a marketing and media frenzy perspective, like, yeah, it would have been great. I don't think it's going to take away from people watching the WNBA or wanting to follow Caitlin. At the end of the day, I'm kind of like, get some rest, girl. Like, take an ice bath, maybe like go see your family, take a breather, you know, just take care of yourself. Like take that month and just like recoup and you know, I think that there's several other people. I don't know what the roster is going to be, but I know Enrique's name. You know, when you think of people who should probably be on the team but that might not make it, is Enrique Ogunmowale, who's fan-friggin-tastic, and she might not make it because of chemistry or because of whatever other, you know, areas that they're looking for, you know, adaptability, European play, international play. And then, you know, these women are playing like 1 week a year together. You think the W is challenging? It's like they don't get a lot of camps together like the U.S. Women's national soccer teams. There aren't these consistent camps throughout the year where these 12 players get together or 16 players.
Well, given that, do you feel like the chemistry argument is a valid argument?
I do. I think there are those who have played together internationally because a good chunk of the players that are on this roster have been going overseas for a long time and have had that exposure. And there is something to say with a shorthand with athletes who have familiarity together and know each other's style of play.
Sure.
These women are talented enough where they could adapt to that. But I also think the international game is played very differently. And we talked about that last time. It's kind of like they're going to move their feet a little bit more, and then their defense is going to be a little bit, you know, a little bit different. And I think that, you know, every woman that makes this roster is deservingly so, and there are going to be women who are deservingly so to make the roster that aren't going to make it. And if I wish we could have I wish we could have two USA teams representing. We're that talented. But I do think Caitlin's handled it really well, as she's handled everything. Class act. Maturity beyond her years, and I think that she'll support the USA team all the way. If she makes it, if she doesn't, you know, we still don't know. I feel
like maybe she's always saying that she's not on social media and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. She hears everything though, but I feel like maybe the Olympics is a good opportunity for her to be a little more active, like, you know, show herself watching it with her friends or her family, or, you know, she's going to be watching, and there's other opportunities for her to kind of help market this team overseas for the Olympics, if they so choose. You know,
sure. I have several thoughts on this. I could go on my ball. I will say,
give it to us, Tracy.
I will say that I think if Diana Taurasi did not plan to attend this year's Olympics, I think Caitlin Clark might have. They're gonna. You have to put her on. Like, she's in the same position as Diana Taurasi. You'd have to. There's just no other point guard that kind of brings to the table the 3-point shooting, the assists. Caitlin Clark can bring. So I think Diana's choice to stay on, I think the committee gave her what she deserves. Hey, you know, she's playing well. She's averaging the same amount as Caitlin. You know, they're averaging around 16.5 points a game. So it's not like Diana's lost a step. Diana's way more physical. Diana knows the game. She's played overseas for years. She's 42 or something crazy.
She just turned 42.
Yeah. I mean, she deserves this kind of last hurrah. You know, I think Chelsea Gray is the best point guard in the world. I just in awe of her when she plays. And you wouldn't think it because she's kind of slow a little bit because she's had that injury, that nagging injury. But she is, I don't know if it was the last year's finals or the previous year's finals where she literally couldn't miss a shot. Like, she would just throw up off balance, crazy shots, threes, you know, even. And her court vision is second to none too. So the big question mark for me though is, it sounds like Chelsea Gray is going to be healthy. You know, she hasn't played. She really hasn't played in a year, probably. She's going to be rusty. So that is a big issue. And you know, the committee's not stupid. Like, they have to know that she's ready to go because the point guard position is so important. You know, I think my other thought on it is, I think as much as it's chosen by the committee, I guarantee you Cheryl Reeve, who's the head coach, has a lot of input as well. And Cheryl Reeve is very old school. And I think she doesn't want to deal with this media firestorm that's going to travel with her to the Olympics. She doesn't want these crazy fans all over social media saying, why is Caitlin on the bench when Caitlin probably shouldn't be playing anyways? But they're just crazy. We all know how to see it. Cheryl Reeve just wants things done the way she's been doing it. You know, I think, am I wrong? I think Dawn Staley coached last Olympics, right? So this is Cheryl's first Olympics.
Yeah.
And so she wants things run a certain way, which I get. And I'm totally fine. I don't think there's anyone on that roster that I could replace Caitlin Clark with and feel comfortable doing so. I think all the women that are on the team right now deserve to be there. And Caitlin Clark, let's be real, she is a kind of a turnover machine right now. Like, she's averaging close to 8 turnovers a game. That's So I think Caitlin knows deep down that she might not be quite ready. But her quote to her coach when she found out that they woke up a monster, that's what I love about her. Yeah. She's taking this and she is adding more fuel to her fire, and she's just going to come out and take it and run with it. So I'm totally fine being in the selections. I don't have any issues with it. And even though all these Stephen A. Smiths and all these other media personalities, it's not all about marketing. I'm sorry. It's about putting out a product that is going to show the world that we are still the dominant force, because internationally it's getting tighter and tighter. We are not dominating.
Who's our top competition
Aussie?
Yeah, Australia for sure.
Yeah. I think France and Spain too.
Yeah.
And maybe Canada. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can name any of them that are in the Olympics. It's, granted, you're going to have a few teams that are just way off, but you have one off night in basketball, like, you're done. Obviously we should be fine getting through the group stage, but once you get into knockout rounds, anything can happen. This is not a best of 5 series.
Did I read that Sabrina Ionescu is the only player under the age of 26?
No, I think there are 2 players that are 26. 26 is the youngest.
Because we have an older team. I mean,
knowing the other teams, I think the average age is in like the older, like the late 20s, like 26 to 28.
Yeah. I mean, how do you think that's going to go against some of these international teams? Do you think that's going to be?
I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think that I think the international teams will probably have a similar age range. I don't think they'll be much younger. I think, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think in reality, it's like, don't get me wrong, I love USA basketball.
Sure.
I'll tune in, but none of us are really watching the Olympics to watch USA basketball. Like, we're
correct.
Like we were talking about, it's like, I'm tuning in to watch the sports that I don't watch all year round, which is the track and fields and the swimming and the gymnastics. And like, there's surfing this year. There's breakdancing. I probably won't watch
excited
that.
for surfing.
Like, maybe I'll be like, what is this thing? How are you judging it? But for me, it's the sports that I don't consume regularly that get the global stage 4 times a year, and those are the ones that I'm going to be really, really interested in. Yes, I'm going to tune into USA basketball. Yes, I'll tune into soccer or football, but I'm really tuning into the other sports that I don't get to enjoy as much because they're not on TV. You know, they're not, we can't consume it on media. Like, Dawn, you and I were talking about over the weekend about where's the French Open? How do I watch this thing? It's like the top of the top 4 tournaments. I'm like, I can't find it. And you had to go down a rabbit hole and do this all investigation and let alone, like, we know the cycle. It's like, it's track and field preliminary season. And it's like, the trials are coming up, and we know a couple months before the Olympics, we're going to get that buzz. But I don't think if you had Caitlin, Caitlin's gonna have like 4 more Olympics in her future. She's 22 years old, and I think probably not this, maybe the next Olympics, because it's in LA. It's like we're hosting it here in America. That's going to be a great story for her. It's knock on wood, she's healthy and doing well, and to make her first Olympic team playing in the United States, like that's going to be a big story. And she's got plenty of big stories ahead. So
Is it typically this? I feel like the Olympics are coming up so fast, and we don't have an official team yet. Is that typical?
I feel like, I mean, you the rosters for the Olympics, for if you think any sports, like, they haven't announced track and field, they haven't announced gymnastics. And
those trials are going on.
Those trials are happening now. So them announcing the USA basketball or even the women's soccer. Like, we don't know who the final team is for women's soccer yet either. We know the campus, we don't know the final 23. So I'm not surprised that it's, a couple months out or 6 weeks.
The unique situation with women's basketball and men's basketball is just they don't practice ever.
Yeah.
Like, they literally are WNBA, and then you throw in 12 players, and you have like 7 practices. Whereas these other countries are practicing year round with the same players. So I understand their philosophy about trying to get some chemistry of players that have played together, because when you have 7 practices and you throw in somebody that has never played at this high of an international level, like, sorry, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. Tracy, when we were talking about our topics for tonight, one of the things you mentioned was that the Aces were struggling to be a 500 team. And I've been following basketball this year, especially just because of everything that's going on, and we've all been talking about it. But I thought the Aces were crushing it. And are they struggling more than you expected?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think, the last couple games, Jackie Young she's had an illness or I don't know, something. She didn't play last night. And then Chelsea Gray, I'm telling you, Chelsea Gray is the glue to that team. Yeah. And that's why I was curious how they would do this year, because without her, they're just a different team. I mean, she's so good and keeps that team together. The point guard position is so important. And they just don't. Kelsey Plum can't run point. I mean, she can do it, but she wants to score. Like, she just wants
to. It's not her natural position.
No,
it's just not.
No, and Jackie Young, same. Like, they're both shooting guards. They just want to be set up to score. And Chelsea is a pure and natural
general
point guard.
General on the floor. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I do think also, even though Candace Parker was injured last season, having her as a part of the team in the locker room, on the bench, at practices, and just her experience and leadership to like get folks to focus. Like, when, granted, they had a great season last year, but they had a target on their backs because they were the national champions, and then they won twice in a row, and it was, they kind of kicked New York's butt in the finals. It wasn't really a competitive finals. And then this season, I agree with you, Trace, like, the general's not there. She might be on the bench. And then I watched the game last night, and then, like, this whole past week since we chatted last, I mean, it was just awesome WNBA play all around. Like, all of the games, just like, you can see the teams, they're getting their chemistry, they're learning, they're getting into a flow with each other. There's some really fun passes happening. Trace, we still got to talk about you going to the Mystics Fever game. But when I was watching the game last night, and everyone was excited because, and I love that Kate Martin has the nickname, like, Kate Money Martin, like that's her nickname already. And like, everyone's like fan club over Kate Martin, and she's, if we're talking about like deserving of, she's like, it's just such a feel good story all around. And she, again, class act. Coach Buehler from Iowa, coached and raised some really great athletes, and I'm sure that's a lot about who they were coming into the program, but she helped mold those women, and she's done a great job. But, her starting and watching the game last night and kind of seeing how the Aces are playing, to your point, Trace, like, they don't have the general on the floor. There's not a consistency. There's more turnovers than they typically have done in the past because, again, they don't have someone directing traffic. And last night I was like, ooh, it's LA, it's Ace. There's Hambry on the floor. There was definitely some scuffling going on underneath the basket. There was definitely some killer blocks from Asia. There was, it was a physical game. Women's basketball is physical, and Becky Hammond got ejected from the game. She got 2 technicals and was ejected. It was so dumb. I'm like, between her and what was it? Sophia Smith getting ejected from the NWSL for hiding a ball under the bleachers. Like, I didn't do it. I don't know why you kicking me out. But like, Becky laughed about it. She's like, all right, we're losing it. Like, we're down by 5. We're not going to win this one. I'll see you.
I think it was like Oprah Winfrey and like giving out, you get a technical.
Yeah.
Asia Wilson had one. Becky had 2. Like. And again, it goes back a little bit to officiating. It's so physical. These players are getting pissed, And I think is starting to kind of manifest itself when some of these players getting, talking back their rest, the coaches are getting into it.
Yeah.
And sure, Maggie was frustrated for other reasons too. But
Yeah.
I mean, I saw her like up and down the court, screaming and yelling more so than I think she has in the past.
Yeah. Well, because you talk about the physicality with Caitlin, and you talk about the physicality, just like the women's game has always been physical. And I will say, as somebody who's watched the league for a long time, this does feel like an outlier year with the officiating. It just feels bad.
Yes.
Like, it's always been physical. This league's always been physical. This isn't a new news alert. Hey, women play physically. This has always been the case. But the officiating this year just feels like they call bullshit fouls that aren't fouls, and then they don't call like somebody getting punched in the face. And you can kind of tell the difference. Where are you looking? 3 officials that are on the floor. You have your zones. This isn't like there's 3 of you for a reason to be able to fill in the blind spots.
Do you think that all the eyes on the league that you guys have watched this more the W more than I have? Do you think that is it exceptionally worse this season? And do you think that maybe they all kind of have the yips just because there's so much more attention? Like are the rest dealing with a different kind of pressure, do you think? Or is it just, they're just terrible?
I mean,
go ahead, Trace.
No, I mean, maybe a little bit, but honestly, it's some of these officials I've seen a fair amount of the officials that have done the college game and they move into the WNBA during the summer. But some of these other, and I'll say this, is mostly the male referees that I have not really seen at the college level that are now working the WNBA games. And I think not all of them, but some of them have a very short fuse when it comes to women and how they're going to be in terms of attitudes and all of that. And we saw that with, I think, Angel Reese. I think everybody saw that.
With the bullshit, the technical call that they called back.
At least they did call that one back. But
and Sabrina Ionescu was playing against them. Even said that was the biggest BS call ever. So it's unfortunate. It's like that's something that they have got to focus in on in this new year. Like, I don't know if they need to have some sort of training on what's acceptable behavior on the court and what really constitutes a flagrant or a tee. The whole Kenny Carter thing, like, give me a freaking break, that is embarrassing. So I don't know what the problem is, honestly.
I agree with you. I do think it's a little bit more physical this year. I do think there are more eyeballs on it. I do feel like the officiating, it's just, everyone's just up with the official. Like, you are an official. This is your job. The same way it's like the athlete's job to show up and do the work and win the game. It's the official's job to call a game where it's like, it's going to be physical, but these are the rules. These are what the fouls are. And this is when you're supposed to call a foul. And you're never going to be perfect as an official. I don't officiating is a hard job. But at the end of the day, if you had to level of success, and if I were to have a performance review with this officiating class, I'd be like, PIP program, performance improvement, please, because this is just, we need to get back to the basics of what officiating is, because y'all aren't doing it. And if there's a month off with the Olympics, I'm hoping that these officials get into an immersion program on what is women's basketball and how do you officiate it? Because with the fact that you have players who are all twiddling their thumbs at half court, be I don't know what the F this is. Did you foul? I didn't foul. They were looking at officials I didn't do anything. I didn't do it. And
I mean, don't get me wrong. Players are also a little bit more whiny this year. I will say that, they whine about everything, and it's okay, enough. The whole every time there's a foul,
constantly.
I'm give me a break. Stop it.
Well, that's where I feel like there needs to be I feel like there needs new rules as how the league progresses and gets better. Is there only a certain amount of review? You get a certain number, the same way you get a certain number of timeouts, you get a certain number of review calls, and if you lose it, you lose a timeout.
Yeah.
And then the amount of time the refs have to review the calls.
Yeah.
It should you get 30-second timeouts, minute timeouts. That's how long it should take you to review, or you call New Jersey and you get the folks that have the better lenses or the better cameras looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the 4 or 5 minute timeouts are we got to reset the clock and we got to do this, and then it's it's a this foul, and then you're shooting, and then by then you're like, okay, I need to re-stretch because my body's tightened up, and I'm going to pull a hammy when we start running again. And it just takes the energy out of the arena. It just takes the energy out of the arena. Yeah.
100%.
Tracy, when you were at the Mystics and Fever game last Friday at the Capital One Center in Washington, D.C., sold out, right?
Yes, completely. I caught myself looking around being like, oh my gosh, this is a game between 10 Mystics and like 2-9 Indiana Fever. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
No, it was absolutely incredible. Again, shout out Steph and Carly. We were maybe 10, 11 rows from the court. We got there early. So we saw Indiana doing their pre-shoot around. So we got to see Caitlin Clark shooting around, doing her stretches, and then signing autographs. And it was so freaking adorable, let me tell you. Like all these little girls clamoring to the corner, waiting for her to walk out. And she couldn't be more gracious. Signing everything and just, she's just a class act. And I think that's what's that's what's her marketability is. She's just so gracious and classy with everything she does when she has the weight of the world on her. But yeah, the energy in the arena was amazing. It just overall an incredible experience. Mystics lost, but again,
it was a 1-point game. It was a competitive game.
I mean, the Mystics are the best 0-11 team I've seen in a long time. It's unfortunate because Shakira Austin and Brittany Sykes have been injured for a majority of their games. Two of their best players. And they're still competing against the New Yorks, against the Connecticut's, to the point where they were only down, I think, 1 or 2 the other night with like 30 seconds left to New York. So that is, I don't know if these other teams are playing down to them, but it seems like the Mystics are pretty good. Like their schemes are pretty good. They're getting open shots, but they just don't have the 1-2 punch of Brittany Sykes and Shakira Austin. I mean, Shakira Austin's a beast. Brittany Sykes is a point guard, and you can't lose your point guard for that long. But the other one, and I think I told you, Julie Van Loo. Love watching that girl play. She doesn't seem like a rookie, but she's a rookie in this league. But she's so good. A little bit of a flair, which I like. And she was feeding off the crowd on Friday. The whole team was loving it on Friday.
Is she from Australia?
She's from Belgium.
That's right. The Mystics pick good Belgiums. They do a good job.
That's right.
Our OG's over in Chicago now, but is she still in Chicago? I feel like she's.
I don't think she's in.
I don't think she's playing this season.
I think it's a bummer. Olympic year. It's an Olympic.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she's with the team.
Practice with her team for like a year.
Yeah. So Alex and I have been watching the NBA Finals. Tracy, I don't know how much of that you've been watching. Have you watched any of the Mavs Celtics?
Zero.
So who are you rooting for there, Trace, if you're not watching? Do you know who's playing?
I'm rooting for it to end so that I can purely focus on the WNBA.
Yes.
Hey, listen, we appreciate those NBA players supporting the W. They've been doing a very long time.
I agree.
Yeah. We got to shout out to the men because the NBA players have been talking about the W and these female athletes being beasts. Since the league started. So. But they gotta play games. They gotta play games too. So yeah.
And shockingly, Dallas is lost the first 2 games. I was not expecting that. I thought they'd at least win one of those games. Luka is definitely not 100%. Kyrie Irving could not hit anything last night. He just couldn't. The Celtics are smothering them in their defense, but Kyrie had looks and it just wasn't hitting. So I think that once they go back to Dallas, a lot of these Celtics role players that have been crushing it, that's just not going to happen in Dallas. It's just not. But Dallas really needs to win their first game back. They really have to. Because with Porzingis, the Celtics look unstoppable, but he did tweak that calf again, I think, during the game last night.
Yeah, he looked like he was struggling towards the end of the game, and I was like, take him out. You're gonna win. Like, don't injure one of your key center. Like, get him out of the game.
Exactly, and they're not playing again until Wednesday, so hopefully he'll have enough time. Maybe they'll restrict his minutes, but I don't know.
if
But it's
he's
been
not
fun.
playing, like if he's injured and he's not playing, or he has limited minutes in Dallas, I definitely think Dallas can come back from a game or two.
For sure.
Trace, for context, they've been playing in Boston. The Garden's been crazy. Like the crowd at the Garden, like playing, like it's like Larry Bird days. But they're going to be in Dallas the next 2 games, and I think that if I was telling John, I keep calling Portacallis like my big fat Greek wedding, but I'm like, that's not his name. Porzingis, if he's able to recover and play the whole series, I think Boston's gonna get it in 6. If he gets injured, I think that it's a toss up.
7.
Honestly, I think he goes 7, and Dallas might be able to squeak it by. But if he can stay healthy throughout the series, I think Boston's going to take it.
Yeah, and it's been interesting watching Jaylen Brown. I mean, I watch a lot of basketball. I've watched a lot of NBA basketball the last several years, and I have seen Jaylen Brown. He's always been great, but it was also always Jason Tatum who was the guy. Yeah, and I think it's not that. I don't think that it's that Tatum is no longer the guy, but a lot of people that were more, most people are casual NBA fans. I am not, because I play a lot of daily fantasy, so I watch a lot of it. But I always knew,
reverse. We're reversed.
I know, exactly. He's been so great, and they have a lot of weapons on that Celtics team. I mean, if Porzingis doesn't play, if he misses a couple of games, it'll go to a game 7, and it could go either way. I agree with you; it could go either way. But Dallas needs to do something when they get back on Wednesday, and they will. They will.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I hope Boston wins, because I feel like Boston's been in the finals like 2 or 3 times in the last 5 or 6 years, and they keep losing. Like, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's
been what, 18 years since they won the last
17
one,
or 18,
yeah.
17 or 18 years, and some of their superstars like Jason Tatum, he has struggled in the playoffs. But they have a really strong team right now. They've got great role players. They should still win. But for Porzingis to at least be healthy that first game, I mean, they just crushed Dallas. I mean, I don't know that anyone thought that Porzingis was going to look that good after not playing for so long. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But we had a very busy sports weekend last weekend. Alex and I did a lot of texting on Sunday because we had the French Open. I was watching the French Open. I think I started watching it at 9. I think Alex started watching it around 10.
I was like, this is going to go 5 sets. This is going to go 4 hours long. I can't sit and watch this for 4 hours. I know the men's game. The men's games typically go fast. They take like 3 to 4 hours. The women's, depending on who's in it, an hour to 2 hours. And
Donnie, did we discuss this in a text or something? I would love to see everybody just go best of 3 sets. Like, do we really need to go 3 out of 5 and go for 5 hours?
Well, it was interesting. I think we were texting about this because when I was watching one of the matches on the Tennis Channel, and I don't know who was announcing it. I don't know who those folks are. The gentleman asked the other woman who was there, was asking about this exact thing, and he said, "Do you think that everyone should play best of 5, women and the men?" And she said, "I think that everyone should play best of 3, men and women, until you get to the quarterfinals or maybe the round of 16, and then everybody plays best of 5."
Oh, so kind of like the NBA or the NBA finals, or
kind of where you're like best of 5 and then best of 7.
Best of 7.
I had never heard that being articulated before. And my brother watches a lot of tennis, so he and I were talking about it. But he's all about the guys still playing best of 5 all the time, just because things could go so fast at the beginning that they can always come back. But that's my argument with the women playing best of 5. It takes time. Sometimes it just takes time. It's like us on the golf course, right? It takes 9 holes to get warmed up, and then you get going. So if you are on the women's side, you're only playing 2 out of 3, and you lose like 6-2. Now you only have one. You got one opportunity to kind of get it back, and sometimes they do, but most of the time they don't. And then we end up watching a set or a match that is an hour and 10 minutes.
So just crushed it.
I've never heard these conversations in a official way. I don't know that there's any talk of that. And Tracy, it was on a group text because Steph, who watches a lot of tennis, her opinion was that nobody should be playing best of 5. Her opinion
No,
is
I
that
agree.
it's just too
long.
hard on your body.
Yeah.
Although I will say that the men don't play best of 5 in other tournaments. If it's not a major, they're playing best out of 3. So
Oh,
if they're playing
interesting. I didn't know that.
so if they're playing one of these, tournaments in Cincinnati, or one of these like when they come here to DC, is it what the city?
City Open.
Citibank,
Mhm.
City Open.
Yeah.
Those are all best 2 out of 3. There's no best of 5 with the men.
Yeah.
Men and women all
I
get
feel
best
like
2
I
out of
could
3.
watch that for the consumer. Me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
I have
Yeah.
the attention span to watch best of 3. When we go
Yeah.
to that and we do best of 5, like I'm checked out.
But
Yeah.
you know what? Watching that Alcaraz and Zverev match,
I know.
I mean, I was planted. I mean,
Mhm.
I started watching it at 9, and I think at about 10:30, I took the dogs out and came back and just settled in because
Because
we'd
you know
already
you're
gone.
going to be there for 4 hours. Like
Right.
these
And I
guys,
had
the way they
another.
play.
Yep. And,
Oh, it's like
I think,
it's like
Yeah.
you're hunkering down for a men's match most
Yeah,
of
and
the
it just
time.
kind of depends.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
It is. How
What
many
the
double
heck?
overtimes are we going to go into?
Oh
I
my
think I probably
gosh.
like it. I remember being, I remember our whole family watching when I was like in middle school, and we were watching. We might have been watching McEnroe or one of those guys. And my brother and I were both laying on the floor, laying with pillows up against like our humongous coffee table that we had, and we were watching it with our cereal or whatever. And then my parents were sitting on the sofa, and we were all watching. Usually Wimbledon, because Wimbledon was around 4th of July weekend, so that's when
Yeah.
we would usually watch it.
Mhm.
So I feel like these long matches, we just used to love it because we would just sit there and watch tennis all day. And it was awesome. So, and Sunday here was kind of gray and cloudy, so I was happy about it. But then
Donnie, everybody wants to know, what cereal did you have?
back then, yeah. So I was probably eating corn pops. Or see, as kids, my brother and I got to eat the really good cereals. Like we had like cornflakes for my dad or whatever. But we got to eat Trix. We got to eat cornflakes. We got to eat Lucky Charms. Oh,
Ooh,
yeah,
rainbow
yeah.
milk. Rainbow milk.
It was awesome. It was awesome. My brother used to have this huge bowl, and he would just sort of put his whole face in it.
Oh
I
my
used to do
goodness.
Cocoa Puffs. I used
Memories.
to do Cocoa Puffs. Get that chocolate
Yep.
milk.
Exactly.
stuff.
And then after tennis, we had the Canadian Grand Prix,
Mhm.
which started at 2 p.m. And usually Alex and I, we watch a lot of Formula One. We're used to, 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever time it is.
They're all over in
And
Europe
after
or
Asia,
Asia.
after a really boring Monaco Grand Prix, it was a really fun race.
Mhm.
And there's so much drama with all these drivers that are, switching over. Hamilton to Mercedes, Carlos Sainz leaving Ferrari, still doesn't have a seat.
I saw a meme for poor Carl, and he's such a great driver, but they're like,
I know.
Safety car, because there was like 3 safety cars in the race. So
Yeah.
people don't know what we're talking about, Formula One racing.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're familiar with like NASCAR, IndyCar,
Drive to
this
Survive.
is
Watch it.
Drive to Survive on Netflix. That's how I got hooked. And it's like the luxury brand of racing. If
Exactly.
if you're like, everyone who goes to these things is a gazillionaire.
Wait, that's my question. Like, why? Because NASCAR was such a huge thing for the last, I don't know, 10, 15
Mhm.
years, as far as I know. And then just in the last couple of years, Formula One has like exploded. So is it because it's like the luxury and NASCAR is like backwoods?
I think there are a couple things. I'm gonna jump. I'll say this and then jump in.
Good.
I think for me, it's the Netflix series was helpful to give people just like context. It came out during the pandemic, and then I think that the style, like for NASCAR, it's like you're going in a circle. You're just you're just turning left the whole time, and not to say like it's crazy what they do, but you're just going in a circle. And then with IndyCar, I think the race is a little bit. There's like actual course. I'm not as familiar with IndyCar. It's like it's not as diverse course wise, but they're all the same car. Every team has the same car, and so with Formula One, it's each team gets a certain budget and they can build their car from scratch, and they have to follow certain rules and regulations on what their car can and cannot have, and they have a certain budget of which they cannot pass, and it's run by the FAI or FIA, and so every car is a little bit different. They talk about their engines. It's much you get into like the mathematics and like the geekiness of kind of like how the car stays on the ground when it's turning around this course at like 200 miles an hour, and the courses are all different.
Yeah.
There's 33 races across the globe, and every course is different, and they have to race in the rain or whatever the weather is, they have to race it. And it makes it really unpredictable, and there are only 20 drivers. And that's it.
And there are
10 teams and 20 drivers, and they're all gorgeous looking men who are like super charmed. Like you have your broody, like, oh, he's going to be out of the 10 guys, like he's the broody one, or like he's the really quiet one, and then you get to listen in to them while they're racing, and then you get to know their personalities through the docuseries. And so you're like, I'm my team McLaren, am my team Ferrari, am my team Red and my team, and you get to, it feels more interactive than the NASCAR.
I think also because it's international, right? So everyone's from everywhere else, as opposed to NASCAR when, everyone's mostly American, mostly from the South. There's that's generally how it goes.
Yeah.
I feel like folks that have always loved NASCAR still love it. I think people like me who I used to watch Indy 500 every year because my friend Kim, who some of you guys might know, she and I, for some reason, every year, maybe because it was like Memorial Day, we would be hanging out and we would watch it because it would be at some sports bar we were at. But I don't really watch it. But then I got into Drive to Survive, and I got invested in the personalities and team ownerships, and
so much drama.
I'm going to buy this team. My son's going to drive, like it or not. And you're like, I hate that. Rah! And now you're all into it. They have street circuits, in Monaco, Miami, Azerbaijan,
Las Vegas
now. Now they're going to do one in Chicago. So they're very different storylines. They're very different personalities, and Netflix does have a docuseries now for NASCAR. I did watch 1 or 2 episodes and just didn't really draw me in, but it might draw in some other folks. I mean, my brother didn't know anything about Formula One. Now he's all into it because of the series as well. So the big news is, where is Carlos Sainz going to go? It looks like it's going to be maybe Williams, which I'm very excited about. Williams' principal is used to be, I think, Toto's right-hand guy for Mercedes. So there's just a lot going on there. So it's, and again, I think
they're Alpine. I think we're talking about Alpine because Ocon is not renewing his contract.
Right.
So I think between Williams and Alpine, I think Williams would probably be a better fit for him. But it's hard. Agree. It's kind of like trace like the W. It's like you have your top 5 teams. Then it's like the bottom 5 are still good teams, but they just can't cross over.
Yeah.
Formula One's similar. Like you have your top 5 race teams who are like you're the A class, and then each of those top teams have a secondary team, and those are the bottom 5 teams. And so Red Bull will have 2 teams, Mercedes will have 2 teams, and it's kind of like, here's your A drivers and here's your, I hate to say, like, I don't want to say like B drivers, but
A drivers,
they're like you're still amazing drivers, but you're driving in a car that is not going to be in the top 5.
Right.
They just know it.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to have the money, they're not going to have the sponsorship, they're and so what they're hoping for is a rain, like a rain or a car malfunctions, and that's usually when the bottom 10 to 20 can creep up.
Although I do think that they all have the same budgets now, right? I thought they might all.
Yeah, but they might all have the same budgets. That doesn't mean they get all the money, from my understanding, from like a sponsorship.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yep. No, you're right about that.
That's the way they're like, we can only build so many cars, so please don't crash all of them because we only have so much money to replace the chassis and all this stuff, and it really is a like I think for me, like if I hadn't watched Drive to Survive, it would have been on the periphery, but they do a good job in the docuseries to get you invested. Like last year, Verstappen won everything, and so it's like boring. He won all the things, great. And so last year's docuseries was about everybody else but him because he won every race. It was amazing. It was an amazing feat that he accomplished, but it gets a little boring when it's the same one winning every single time.
Yeah,
you want to see somebody else come out. But yeah, Formula One, it's entertaining, it's fun. It's definitely one where it's like, I will watch this, and I have to start saving up to actually go to an event because they're crazy, stupid expensive.
Yeah. I was getting some emails from the Miami race, because I think I'd entered in some information because I was just curious about, really how much does it really cost for these various levels, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
But, it's the dream. The dream is really to go to Monaco and sit on one of the corners. They have these really, well, either to sit on the yacht and watch, and then they also have.
Talking. I don't get down to watch. I sit on a yacht.
Yeah.
They have them all lined up, and then you can just watch as the cars go by.
That's amazing.
Yeah, which is awesome. So I know we're getting close to
Wild About Sports on the yacht, right?
Yes.
I feel like we
take the
can make that
podcast on the road. Yeah,
take it on the road.
Put it out there. Manifestation, folks.
I'm ready.
Who wants to sponsor us? Come on.
Media creds.
Yeah.
We have just a few minutes, but we got a hard stop. We got a
hard stop, baby.
Hard stop.
It's a person.
Tip off in 5 minutes.
Let's talk real quick about the Lakers coaching situation.
What a shit show. I mean,
the Lakers have been a shit show for like 10 years.
I mean, I saw something, I don't know if it was from you guys, that basically they felt like it was a total setup so that Hurley could get a max contract from UConn, which it makes sense. Like, why would, I don't know, like, why would you leave the Lakers and the NBA? It is so crazy. Like, these coaches last 1 or 2 years. They get fired if they don't win or.
I don't think that it's a total setup.
Okay.
I think that the coach was definitely, hey, it's the Lakers. I'll listen. But we're going to find out how much Connecticut is going to throw at him to stay.
Yeah.
They haven't announced it. And they did announce that the Lakers was looking at around $70 million for a 4-year contract.
7 years. It was like $10 million a year. I'm like,
but
to deal with that bullshit.
Yeah, to deal with that.
Get fired. Someone wrote on Twitter, they're like, all you gotta do is work for 2 years.
Get that guarantee.
Yeah.
Get that check.
UConn. Yeah.
Tracy, so for the Fever and the Suns. Oh no, not the Suns.
Sun.
Is it the
Suns?
Connecticut?
It's the Sun.
The
Sun.
Okay.
One Sun. One
the
check.
Sun.
Yeah.
The Sun. Okay.
Yeah.
Who you got?
Man, I mean, as much as I want to pull for my girl Caitlin, like the Connecticut Sun are so solid, and they're playing at home. Like,
and she's going to be guarded by Alyssa Thomas. I mean, there's just
again,
and DJ Harrington is. I mean, sorry, I'm a little nervous to watch the game.
Tonight, Monica McNutt is going to be on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Now, we all know what's been going on. Monica McNutt, the kerfuffle with her and Stephen A. She says everything's good, fam, everything's great. Thanks for the support. The fact that she's on Daily Show tonight, I am going to watch it. It's at 9:00. I'll probably set it up to record it. Maybe I'll watch it tomorrow morning with coffee. And might have to call you guys and do a little morning session, depending on how that goes. So anyway, everybody enjoy the game tonight. Great chatting as always, and we'll catch up next time.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.